In this video, I'll go through creation of orthographic multi-view drawing for this part right here. So obviously, first step is what is going to be our front view. Think about most information, fewest hidden lines, and longest dimension. So I think kind of the obvious choice here, I think it is anyway, is if you look at the part like this way, and if I look at it that way, I'm going to see a lot of what's happening here. Now, it's an interesting part. It does have a lot of geometry to deal with. So let's kind of look at what we're going to see when we do look at the front view. You're going to see this face here. Now, something interesting happened is notice these corners are rounded off. They're filleted. So what you're going to see though is from that view is you'll just see a straight edge. You can't tell that it's filleted from this point of view. That's something you have to kind of get used to. This isn't like a 3D sketch. It's a flat sketch. So we're just, when we look at this, we'll see that surface. We're also going to see this round with the hole in it. And we're going to see this part here that connects. Now notice there's a little gap in there, but we won't see that gap from this front view. And you see those little lines in there? Lines are trying to show you on this sketch. Now this is not an orthographic. This is a kind of a pictorial. They're telling you that that's filleted. So in the, if I'm looking this way, I can see those fillets. So we're not going to have marks like that because we're going to have multiple views. Now also notice you see the marks there, and that is going to affect the way that we draw this front view because you will see that that's rounded off right there when you look at it. So that's what you'd see in terms of objects. Now we're going to have some hidden lines to deal with because of these holes in the part, but that's a good starting point for us for the front view. So first of all, let's set up our layers. For my 0 layer, they'll be white, continuous. I am going to use a slightly thicker line. That 0.3 seems to work good. Now remember, that's not going to show up if you don't turn the line weight on. So if you type in line weight and make sure you do display the line weight. And we're going to make a center line layer. I've been using blue for that. Oops, okay. It's not going to be a continuous line. I need to load those center lines. Center, say okay, and then make sure you choose it and say okay, and that's good. Now I want this to be, that's usually why I don't change this until the end because it'll keep making everything 0.3. So that's the default size, don't forget. If you're going to change that, good idea is do them all and then come in and change the line weight of just that one. And we're going to have hidden lines. And I've been using magenta, I'll just stick with that. And we have to load our hidden lines. Say okay, choose hidden, say okay. So that layer called hidden will be magenta, it'll be a hidden line, and it's a default line weight. And I want to make a construction layer. And I've been using this really light, I think it's 121 is the number, really light blue. Make sure, because again, it'll take the last line type and load it into that. Make sure you put that on continuous default line weight. And then I always make a dimension layer. And I'll just use red. Continuous line. Okay, I think we're good on our layer. So again, with that being our front view, let's start with our construction layer. Make sure your ortho is on and your object snap is on. My grid and my snap mode are turned off. Remember, snap mode and object snap are not the same thing. So I'm going to just draw a line here. I'm going to make that like 10 inches long. And same with that one. All right, so this part, if you look at the overall width, is 3 inches wide. So we'll do an offset of 3. And then what about the height of it? We'll have to do a little bit of math here. What's the overall height of this? This is 0.75. You have a dimension here. Let's see. All right, so I'd get my calculator out, but that's 0.75 high. Here's this dimension 1.25 will go from that surface up to the center. Now I got to figure out from there to there. And let's see, if we look, you'll see you have this dimension here. That's the diameter, so that's from edge to edge, which would be the same as bottom to top, and I need half of that. So take that number, divide it by 2, so 1.875 divided by 2, because that's the radius, center to the top, plus 1.25 plus 0.75. So that's easy, because 0.75 plus 1.25 is 2. If you take 1.875 divided by 2, it's 0.9375 plus 2, so it's 2.9375. It's almost 3, but not quite, right? So we'll do offset 2.9375, offset up. That'll be the space for our front view. Now, this is a kind of a small part, so don't leave too much space between the views. It's going to look kind of ridiculous. So let's just leave 2 inches. Let me do an offset of 2. See how that looks. Yeah, that's okay. I could probably go smaller, but that's all right. And then let's look at the side view. What are we going to see on the side view here? Oh, what do we like? How about this pink color? So when you're looking at the side, you're going to see this. You're going to see this part here. Now notice there's a little bit of a step here, which will take care of that. See this? Now this is circular, so you're not going to be able to tell it's round, but you're just going to see all the way up to the top of the part. So from this right side view, I would see what's in the pink right there in terms of object lines. Now again, we're going to have to deal with some hidden lines along the way. But okay, so the width anyway, back to the width is 3 inches. So it's kind of almost a square, quite honestly. It's kind of could carve this thing out of a cube. So let's do an offset of 3. Oops, it's in the middle of something else. 3. One more time. Forgot to hit enter. Okay. And then offset of 3. And that'll be a front view, right side view, top view. Let's go ahead and work on this front view. We'll get started with that. So again, we know we're going to have that little rectangle there. It's 0.7 high, so we can do an offset of 0.75, sorry, 0.75. That'll be that little step there. And now I'm going to have this section that I'm seeing right here. And what is the width of that? Well, what we do know is this diameter here is 1.875. So again, the diameter means anywhere from top to bottom, side to side, edge to edge. From side to side is going to be 1.875. So probably a good idea here is let's just put a center line kind of on this thing. So let's do an offset that is oops, bumped something. Offset of 1.5 because I know this is 3 across. And let's just draw the circle to make our lives a lot easier. So we got to come up 1.25 for that, offset 1.25. And a lot of lines, I know, if we just focus on this area here and we start drawing some more solid lines, it'll become a little bit clearer. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's switch to our 0 layer. I'm going to draw that circular feature there, center, comma, diameter. Again, it's 1.875. That'll be that. This base is just a matter of connecting the dots, basically, for the base. Let's see the width of this. It's the width of here, so we just have to come down from there. Your object snap is on, so it's going to click onto that now. Again, you've seen this where it does this weird thing. Probably the easiest way is just go past that line, and it'll be it'll be vertical, it'll be attached to the circle, and then you just come back in and trim that. Right, just save yourself a little bit of trouble. So basically, again, now you see what's in the blue. Now remember we talked about that these corners are filleted, but you cannot tell from this view. You're not going to be able to tell about those fillets till I get to the top. Speaking of fillets, look at these little corners. See the call out for a radius of 1/8 of an inch. So on the sides, it kind of flares out. When you make a casting or like a plastic injection molding, you typically try to avoid square corners because it's difficult to get them out of the mold. Also, it actually makes a stronger part if you put those fillets. So we need a fillet with a radius of 0.125. So let's just go to our fillet command. Remember, you have to hit R, enter, type in the radius, 0.125, hit enter, and then click on your 2 lines, and that'll put the fillet. Now you see something happened here, and that is it also wiped out that line. That's a setting which we can come in and change that. It's easier just to go ahead and redraw it. Fillet, now it's already set for the radius, so just hit enter. Oops, let's see, try that again. Select the objects. There we go. And I'm just going to, again, redraw that line. Now, there might be a question about that. Whoa, why am I seeing that line? Well, your eye is still going to see this edge here. So that's what we're looking at. So you still see the top and bottom of that surface. Let's see, the only other thing is that through hole there. That's a 0.75 diameter. So that is going to be my front view, with the exception of these holes. And there's 4 holes. You only see 3 of them. But what I'm going to do is go to my top view and then just project those lines down. It's a lot easier. I'm kind of lazy. I'd much prefer to do it easier. Let's do the right side view. So right side view, again, you're going to see this bottom section here. Now we've got some lines we can live with. Now we know where the center line is. We know where the top of the part is. Right. I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and put another. Let's put a midpoint here. It's not so much going to be a center line midpoint there, because I know that this is 0.62 wide. So the easiest way to find that is just do an offset. Take half of 0.62 is 0.31 over and over. So that's going to be that line right there. I can draw that in now if I want. Now when you do an offset or a copy or something, it's no matter what layer you're in, it's going to continue to be in the layer that it was drawn under. So I was offsetting those construction lines, even though this is set to the 0 layer, it's still going to make it a construction line until I change the layer, right? That you're just modifying or making a copy of that line. It's not going to change anything. Now what else am I going to have? Now notice that this here is 0.88 wide, and this here is 0.62. So this part here is wider than that. That's why you see that little lip right there. Okay, so we've got to do it. Another offset. Take 0.88 divided by 2. It's 0.44. Boy, I keep messing that up. 0.44. Enter. Take that. Now I got a lot of lines happening here. So try to keep your head straight. And I know, let's just draw a line from there over. Oops, I don't really want it to be a 0 layer. I want it to be on the construction layer. Let's draw a line from the bottom of that over, and we already have one from the top over. So hopefully you can follow this. Again, I know it's a lot of lines. Feel free to turn lines on and off as you need to help you see what's happening. Now I've drawn this a few times, so I kind of know what's going on here. Let's turn off that construction layer for a second. So see what I have right now? So I've got this rectangle here. Again, even though those corners are round, I can't see it from that view. I've got this piece that comes up here, and those lines come up to the center, so I just drew them up to the center there. And then this piece here, again, it's circular, we know that, but from here, from this right side, all I can see is the top and the bottom, so it looks kind of rectangular. Now we have that hole there. We'll deal with that in a second. We also have these fillets. So just like we had last time, from this view, when I'm looking at the part this way, I'll be able to tell that those are filleted. So just come over here. The radius is still 1/8 of an inch, so I can still do these. Now that line's still going to try to disappear. There's a setting on there, so where it says trim. If you hit T, you can set it so it doesn't trim off the lines when you fillet it. But the reality is, most of the time, 90% of the time, you want it to trim off the line. So I'm not going to change that setting right now. Let's see. Let's go ahead and show the hole through here. So let's switch to our construction line. Oops, I need to turn that construction layer on. There we go. And let me draw a line from the top of that hole over, and again, I'm going to go past where I really need it to go. And then I'm going to switch to my hidden layer, and the top of the hole is there, the bottom of the hole Okay, so see how I show the top of the hole, bottom of the hole, and that line's up there. Now I do need a center line on there, and that's easy enough to do. Let's turn, oops, keep doing it, turn my construction layer back on. I am going to, believe it or not, turn off some of these lines. It's getting a little crazy here. And I'm gonna use these for that top view, so I'm gonna leave those on there. So I need a center line that goes along there. Now remember, the center lines extend beyond the edge of the part, so let's just do an offset. This probably isn't gonna need to be very wide. I'm gonna do a 0.5 offset. It's maybe a little long, but let's just go with that. Switch to my center line layer and draw my center line. Construction layer off. And the blue's a little hard to see, but there's my center line. Now I also, I still don't have these holes in here. I'll show you why. We'll generate those in a minute. So I'm gonna turn this crazy construction layer back on. So front view is done, right side view is done. One thing I didn't do is I didn't do a miter line. Let's go back. Maybe there was something. So with the miter line, or the miter line starts here. If you look at your front view, the imaginary, or maybe it's real, depending on the geometry, upper right-hand corner of the front view, we're going to project a line that's up at a 45-degree angle. Now, because we left even spacing between our views, all I got to do is click between there, right? So I check that. It better say 45. Yeah, right. That's my miter. Okay. So top view is going to be here. Now, what is the top view going to look like? Let's get rid of some of my scribbles. On the top view, I'm going to see this, which is why some people may say this is the front view. I'd be okay with that as long as you were careful with your orientation. I'm going to see that. I'm also going to see the top of this, but I have that same situation where this part is circular, but because, again, in this situation, what I'm going to be doing is looking down on this part. So I'm looking down on a cylinder. I can't tell that it's round. Now you can with your eyeball, you can tell that, but not on an orthographic projection. So I know the bottom is 3 by 3. So I can go ahead if I want. Again, sometimes it's nice to go ahead and put some of these lines on here so that you can keep track of where you are. Okay, now something, I hope I don't forget about this, is these corners are all filleted, but I'm going to wait till I have the other stuff done before I get too serious about that. Okay, what else do we want to put on there? Let's go ahead and put this structure that goes on top of here. So let's go back to our construction layer. Now I know that I'm going to have something to line up to that edge and something to line up to that edge. And now let's use these miter lines, okay, or the miter lines. So I've got this line, which is the outside edge. That would be like this face here. There's a line there. So I'm going to project that up and over. So let's see, find that one. It's right there. Again, I'm going to go past the part. Let's go to the other side, and that goes up to there. So let me just draw a line over there. I try not to do too much stuff at once here. And I'm going to go ahead and darken that in. We'll take a look at that. Okay, so again, looking down on this, now it may be a little hard to understand for now, but when I'm looking down on this cylinder, it just looks like a rectangle. So that's the basic outline. But also notice, okay, I'm going to go ahead, get rid of a few of these lines that I don't need. It's getting very, very cluttered. I don't even remember what that line there was. That's right, we'll come back to that. Okay, so now remember see how this part is narrower? When I'm looking down here, I'm going to be able to tell that this is narrow because there's actually going to be an edge across here. Now, it's a curved edge, but just like when we're looking down on the top of this, it's not going to look curved to us. It's going to look like a straight line from my ortho. Let's see, I do want to get rid of that guy. Okay, so that's going to be this line here. So if I project that up and over, and this one, same thing, that edge up and over, that's going to be where that is. Now, they're going to be hidden lines, though. I can't see them with my naked eye, but the edge is there. Unless I have my X-ray vision, I wouldn't be able to know that that was there. Okay. Let's see, what else do we need? Let's go ahead and we can put this hole in the part. Let's just do that and get past that. You know, there's a hole that goes through there, so I'll just project that up and over, switch, or sorry, just up, switch to my hidden layer. And that'll be the left side of the hole and the right side of the hole. I'm going to get rid of all this. I'm not going to get rid of the center line though. Okay, so that takes care of that. And I do need these 4 holes on the perimeter. Let's go ahead and do that. Now those are offset by a 1/2 inch. Everything is a 1/2 inch over. So let's just set our offset for 0.5. Now I conveniently erased that construction line. I'll just use that object line. It's just going to be a construction line. And those are 4 of them. They're 3/8, 0.375. So, and I'm on my hidden layer. Now what happens if you do that? It's easy enough. Just click on it, then go up here, switch it to the 0 layer. It goes to 0 because I can see those holes. And so I forgot to do that. Okay, so let's go back to there. 375. And then I'm just going to erase that. Those are just some construction lines. All right, looking pretty good. Let's put those fillets on there, and around those, what are they? They're 1/4 inch, so those are 1/4 inch radius. So fillet R, enter, 0.25, enter, and then just click on these. Spacebar, you can keep going. Spacebar. Okay, so that is the top view, minus a few center marks. Let's go ahead and put these holes. So you've got holes here and holes there. I am going to, let's see, what do I really need? Let's just clean up a lot of this. You know, if you need them back in, we can undo, or we can come back and put those in. That's easy enough. We can see what we got. Okay, let's draw some construction lines that go from, now these line up, so it's going to be one set of lines, left side of the hole, right side of the hole, and then also we have a center line that we're going to need. Okay, and then on this one, I'm just going to put a center line down. And then over here, I'm going to project that center over and then down, center line over and down. I'm just going to draw one of these holes and then I'm going to copy it to the others and make it easy on myself. So I know that the sides, because I cannot see inside the part, we're going to help you notice that there's something happening there. Again, when I look at that part, those features are just hidden. So those are hidden lines. And then I need a center line. So before I do that, I'm going to do an offset. Something less than, let me try 0.375. You don't want your, yeah, that's good, that's good. I'm going to turn my construction layer on. You don't need crazy long center lines, but they do need to project. Oops, that is not what I wanted to erase. So in this case, what I want to do is erase that little segment. When you do erase, just draw a window around that and it'll just erase that line. So I do want the center lines to project above and beyond the parts so that I can see them, but I don't need them to be so long that it just looks crazy. So I did 0.375. So it's kind of up to you to make something that, put something on there that makes sense. All right, It takes a long time when I'm talking about this, but it doesn't take that long to actually do the work. Okay, I'm erasing these. Don't want to erase that center line there. Okay, so now I want to copy these. So go to copy, select the object. So let's draw a window around. Be careful how you draw your window. Draw a window that includes the center lines, or the center line, and these two hidden. So you have to make sure you get the whole line, and then hit enter, and then specify the base point. Let's just use this top point right there, and then it says specify the second point, and that's why I put that center line there. Uh-oh. I got the little chunk of that thing right there, right? So I can go back and re-window. Let's just do this, and I'll just delete that. That's kind of funny. And then I want one over here, and one over there. And object snap makes that easy. So yeah, I can just erase that. So what you could do when you choose the window, you can come back and unselect that, if that makes sense. And let me turn off these, and we'll take another look and see if we got everything. I think other than center marks, go up to annotate, center marks. Oops, I don't know what layer I'm on. I think I'm on construction. Oh, no, I'm on center. Okay, that's cool. Go to annotate, center mark, and then just go around and click. And the blue is not great on the black background, but it'll be just fine when you get it on your paper. And back to the home tab. And there is our orthographic. So from that kind of pictorial, we've generated accurate drawings, orthographic drawings. Now you will need dimensions. Remember, use good dimensioning practices on these fillets. When you dimension those fillets, make sure you do. Now, if you go to get a fillet and it won't cooperate and zoom in on the thing, at some point in time you'll see it'll realize it's a fillet, and then that'll pop up, and then you can put on. And we've talked about this, the appearance of these, this little circle-y thing. It's fine. It's totally fine. Now I got too many decimals on there, obviously. And so forth. So there you go, you would dimension it. Now one other thing I want to show you this is, let's put this on a piece of paper. Let's go to our layout. Give ourselves a little real estate to work with here. And I think we're done with this. I can get rid of that, make this bigger. So check out my lines. Oh, I did forget. I forgot that center line. That's okay. Easy enough. Go back to the top view. I need a center line. Do some offsets here. Switch to my center line layer. And since I already got rid of my construction lines, I'll just go down there and attach to that a little bit. Let's trim. So that's going to be a cutting edge. That's going to be a cutting edge. Enter. Trim that off. And then just erase those. So it would have been easier if I did it before I got rid of my construction lines. Okay, let's go back to the paper. So check this out. You can't tell that that's a center line. You can't tell that any of these are center lines. So we need to fix that. So that is something called the line type scale. Now don't change it in the model space. That isn't important. You're going to be wasting your time if you change them in the model space. That's one of the reasons it's nice to see the colors. I know that blues are center lines and magenta is hidden and so forth. Just wait till you get it on the layout, and then we can change that. So what you have to do is click. Oops. You have to click on that line. First, double click inside the page, right? So I was out here working on the border. So come in here, double click. So click, right click, and go down to where it says properties. And this is going to pop up. If you can't read it, you can open this thing up. So that is called the line type scale. The default value is 1, and it really is just a value that the guys in the software wrote that they don't know about how long the line segments and the gaps should be because the scale of each drawing is going to be different. So typically you have to change that. So if you come up here, you'll see where it says line type scale and it's 1. The problem is the gaps and the line segments are just touching each other, so you can't see the gaps. What you have to do is make this number smaller. Don't make it bigger. Bigger does not work. It has to be smaller. And don't make it something crazy small. Try 0.5. That's my go-to. And let's see what it looks, oops. Let's see what it looks like. Didn't do it. Let's do it again. Click, right click, properties, and let's try 0.25. See what happens. There we go. Now we're getting there. So 90% of the time, 0.5 or 0.25 will work. Do not put 0.1, 0.01 or something stupid like that because it doesn't work. So that'll adjust that. So now that I know that, and that was 0.25, I can do these others. So I just can click all of them. So I'm just going to keep clicking them. Then right click properties. Line type scale is 0.25. Hit enter. And let's see what we've got. That looks pretty good. Now, if you have different lengths of center lines, for example, see how this one has kind of an odd look? It's okay. It's fine because it has the long segment, short break, short segment, short break, long segment, still the same. So the longer these are, the more they'll change, right? And I can see what I mean now. Let's just undo. That's a better way to do that. Okay. So, but don't, if you make these really short, you're gonna have a really difficult time. No, don't worry, that'll update. You're gonna have a really difficult time making these look like center lines. Now, same thing can happen with your hidden lines. If maybe they look funny, especially if you have a really thin piece, like these are okay, it's readable. But if you wanted to change that, you would right click properties. Now, since we know that that 0.25 worked for the center line, let's try that for this and see what it looks like. It doesn't have to be the same. See, that's too much, too many gaps and whatever. So let's go back to properties. Let's do 0.5. This is a little bit of a pain, but typically you'll be working in the same kind of scale drawings. That looks a lot better. So now I could click on all these. I could even do like 0.75. Don't make yourself crazy on them. Just make sure they look like hidden lines. These are actually acceptable, but since I already started that, right click properties, 0.5, and they'll all look the same. Try to make them look as much the same as you can. So there you go. Now again, this doesn't have dimensions, it doesn't have the title block and so forth, but now you can see what the drawing looks like. Okay.